Let's get back to our primary topic, that was sentence, and let's understand how many types of sentence do we have. I hope till now you will have a proper understanding of clauses. If not, please go back to the slides again and understand them in more detail, because the understanding of clause will make it more easier for you to understand sentences. So we have four types of sentences: simple sentence, complex sentence, compound sentence, compound complex sentence. Sometimes you will also come across complex compound sentence, which is, other way of writing compound complex sentence. So don't get confused with them. Let's discuss all of them one by one. Simple sentence. Simple sentence is always a combination of a subject and a verb, or you can say it contains only one clause. Simple sentences make complete sense and they stand independently because it's only having one clause in it. An example: Ram is a good boy. Ram is your subject, is your helping verb, or you can say verb in this case because we don't have a main verb over here. A good boy is an object in the sentence. So when you have a subject, you have a verb, that means you have a clause. In this sentence we have only one clause and hence we name it as simple sentences. Remember, in your day-to-day conversation you will use simple sentences more often, but when you write something or when you read something, you will come across to the other forms of sentences as well. Let's take one more example. Tiger ran. So tiger is your subject, ran is your verb, and hence it's a complete clause. It doesn't need any other additional information to make sense, and hence we can say it's a simple sentence. Let's discuss second type of sentence, that is compound sentence. So if you remember from your noun, we discussed a type of noun that was compound noun, in which you add two nouns to make one noun. For example, we discussed hair plus cut makes it haircut, and hence it's a compound noun. Similarly, you have compound sentences. Compound sentences are the combination of two independent clauses. Please remember, if I'm emphasizing on this word, two independent clauses, that means it's the tricky part here. So you cannot have a dependent clause in this. All you need is two independent clause. So when I say independent clause, that means they should stand alone and should make complete sense. Also, they're always connected with a coordinating conjunction. Don't worry about this word over here, coordinating conjunctions, because we are having other slides to discuss this in more detail. But over here, please understand, you need a conjunction to join two independent clauses to make a compound sentence. Very well, let's look into some examples. Ram sang and she danced. So if you look here, Ram sang is one clause, she danced is second clause, and we join them together with the conjunction that is and. So when I say a clause, Ram is a subject, sang is a verb. Over here, she is a subject, danced is a verb. Together, they are forming a compound sentence. In this sentence, we have two independent clauses, Ram sang and she danced. Together, they form a compound sentence with the use of this conjunction and. Over here, please focus, and or any other type of conjunction plays a very important role. We'll discuss them in detail in the next slide. Let's discuss coordinating conjunctions. You remember this word from the last slide, coordinating conjunctions? As the name suggests, it is helping two independent clauses to come together to form a compound sentence. And the words that help you or that are recognized as coordinating conjunctions are fanboys. Let's discuss what are fanboys. F stands for, A stands for and, N for nor, B for but, O for or, Y for yet, and S for so. So this is an easy way to remember fanboys, and hence we have abbreviated in this sense: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. An example: it was raining, so I carried an umbrella. It was raining is one clause, Please remember it's an independent clause and hence it holds complete meaning. I carried an umbrella is another clause, again an independent clause, together joined by a conjunction from fanboys or joined by a coordinating conjunctions to form a compound sentence. Guys, please remember we are using very common words to make this concept very clear to you. If you still have a doubt, please go back and start again. You will definitely get accustomed to it. So in this case, as I said, it was raining is one clause. I carried an umbrella is second clause joined by this conjunction. Another important thing that you have to remember, there is a punctuation that is used before this coordinating conjunction. So it's an important part that you use a comma before a coordinating conjunction. Please don't worry, we have a separate chapter for punctuations in which we will be discussing these punctuation and in compound sentences, complex sentences, compound complex sentences in more detail. So, moving on to our next type of sentence, that is complex sentence. I know the name itself is tricky, right? Complex means something that is very complicated and two or more clauses must be joining together. That's correct. In a complex sentence, we have a combination of an independent and a subordinating clause. Or you can say a dependent clause. So this is the difference between a compound sentence and a complex sentence. In compound sentences, we have two independent clauses, but in complex sentence, we have an independent clause and also a dependent clause. Let's look into an example. She smiled because I cracked a joke. She smiled is one clause. I cracked a joke is a second clause. She smiled, I cracked a joke. But if you focus here, in between we have another conjunction which is recognized as subordinating conjunction. Now, as the name suggests, subordinating shows a dependency of one part of a sentence over the other part of sentence. So she smiled needs a reason. Why is she smiling? That means this is an dependent clause. I cracked a joke makes complete sense and hence it's an independent clause. If you remove she smiled from the sentence and just leave I cracked a joke, the sentence will still hold good. It doesn't need any other dependency to make it meaning complete. But if I remove I cracked a joke from the sentence and leave it to she smiled, do you think you will not ask another question? Definitely yes, you're gonna ask why. Why did she smile? She smiled because I cracked a joke. Now this makes a complete sense. So, in complex sentence, you definitely need an independent clause so that a subordinating clause can depend on the independent clause to make a complete sense. Let's discuss what are these subordinating conjunctions. So, I always suggest to my students that if you want to remember what are subordinating conjunctions, please remove fanboys from your conjunctions list and everything that is left is your subordinating conjunctions. But still, to make it little more appropriate for you to understand, we have a tricky part, a white bus. A white bus is a combination of certain conjunctions, not all of them, so that you have an idea of what subordinating conjunctions are. A stands for although, W stands for whenever, H stands for however, I stands for if, T stands for though, E stands for even if, B stands for because, U stands for unless, and S stands for since. As I said, you still have many more subordinating conjunctions to be discussed. But to make you familiar with some of them, please remember a short abbreviation, that is a white bus. Let's look into an example. If she calls, let me know. Again, let's segregate into two parts. She calls is one clause, let me know is one clause, but there is a conjunction which is there at the start of the sentence, and that conjunction is known as subordinating conjunction. So she calls needs another sentence or need another clause to make complete sense. Let me know holds good, and hence this is an independent clause and this is a dependent clause. Together with the use of a subordinating conjunction, we form our complex sentences. Moving on, let's discuss our last type of sentence, that is compound complex sentence. Again, let's use the same trick. Understand with the name itself, compound complex sentence. Doesn't it show that it's a combination of compound and complex sentence together? That's pretty much correct, but not exactly. So in compound complex sentence, you need a combination of two or more independent clauses and one or more subordinating clause. Please remember, in complex sentences as well as in compound complex sentences, you need independent as well as dependent clauses. But in compound complex sentence, you should have at least two or more independent clauses and one or more subordinate clauses. Also, they are connected with conjunctions. These conjunctions will be a combination of coordinating conjunctions as well as subordinating conjunctions, since we are combining compound and complex together. When class started, Ram came and Sita left. Okay, so let's divide them into individual clauses and understand how are they joined together. Class started is one clause, clause number 1. Ram came, clause number 2. Sita left, clause number 3. Clearly it shows that 2 of 3 clauses over here are independent clauses and one clause is a subordinate clause. So what do you think a subordinate clause would be? Definitely class started, because we have a subordinating conjunctions at the very start of our sentence, and then we have two independent clauses, that is Ram came, a subject and a verb. I am again repeating it. A subject and a verb makes a clause. And then you have another clause, Sita left. So, to join two independent clauses, we have used a coordinating conjunctions, and to join two independent clauses with a subordinating clause, we have used a subordinating conjunctions. I know it's a lot of information all at once, so please divide it into individual concepts. You need independent clauses, you need dependent clauses, and you need coordinating conjunctions, you need subordinating conjunctions as well. Moving on, we have a punctuation here to segregate a dependent clause and independent clauses. As I said in the previous slides as well, that these punctuations are studied in more detail in the chapter of punctuations. Let's take this one more example, and I would say very last example, to make this compound complex sentence clear to you. My son cried when I left the room, but I didn't hear. So in this case, we have 3 clauses. My son cried, I didn't hear, I left the room. In this case, my son cried makes complete sense. I didn't hear also makes sense. But I left the room is combined with a conjunction, that is your subordinating conjunction, and hence this is your dependent clause. So here's a fact that you should remember. When you have a subordinating conjunction coming at the start of the sentence, you need a comma immediately after that, or you can say you need a comma immediately before a coordinating conjunction. So a comma is required when subordinating conjunction comes first in your sentence and then your coordinating conjunction comes. So in order to segregate them both, you need a comma in between.